I'm very pleased to say we've got Jonathan Ashworth MP, who is the Shadow Paymaster General, live at the Labour Party conference in Liverpool, which is drawing to an end, Jonathan, I think.
Well, we've still got tomorrow at the Labour Party conference where we've got my speech. So, but we've just had a first-class speech from Keir Starmer, who set out a long-term plan for the country, a plan to help people get back on the housing ladder so that the dream of home ownership is a reality, not a pipe dream, a plan to rebuild our National Health Service and to grow our economy to make people better off. So I thought it was a really fantastic, excellent speech, looking to the long term and dealing with the issues affecting working families today.
Yeah, my apologies. I'm used to Conservative Party conferences where they always end with the leader's speech, so it's at the back of my mind. Jonathan, look, I thought today was a day where Keir Starmer rose to the challenge of trying to say what he believed in, what he stood for, what his vision was. I give him absolute credit for that, for standing up and doing that. But what I want to explore with you is I can't help but feel that the Labour promise, the Labour pledges, are ultimately dependent on you achieving exceptional growth, exponential growth in the economy, not quite from day one, but pretty close to day one. And my question to you is, over the last 30 years, I can't think of a government that has actually enjoyed anything but pretty meagre growth, with the odd peak or two here. What is it about Labour that can ensure you're getting that extra growth, which is when you will be able to deliver on many of your pledges, particularly on public services? Because Rachel Reeves is not going to let you spend any money unless you get that growth.
Well, as you're right to say, growth has been anaemic over these last 13 years. That's certainly true.
Well, I said 30
you can
in fairness.
Grow but it's certainly been anemic over these last 13 as well. But I would argue this. The way in which you grow your economy and spread prosperity is by making it more productive, not necessarily as through public expenditure, as you were hinting at or suggesting in your question there. And the way in which we can make our economy more productive is by making reforms to the planning system so we can build more homes, by training people and reskilling people so they can move into good, well-paid jobs as well, and by also moving to more renewable energy sources so that we're not reliant on the vicissitudes of the international markets of energy. We've seen what's happened with Putin and how that impacts us. But it's about making your economy more productive. That's how you get prosperity, and that's how you grow your economy.
Fair enough. The productivity gap has plagued this country for over 30 years, and that's quite a challenge that you're talking about. Now, you talked about, first of all, let me just tackle on growth, because I thought you might say it's all the wicked Tories who had bad growth, but actually, I've got the figures in front of me. The last 13 years, we've achieved 22.3% growth cumulatively with the Tories. Actually, Labour before that, 23.6%. It is, to be honest, if we're brutally honest for a moment, it's been pretty lacklustre for a number of reasons. And I think productivity is one of them, by the way. What I'm getting at, though, slightly different to what you've suggested, is that Rachel Reeves does want to do quite a lot with the economy, but she's saying, you're not going to get extra money for spending because we have to reinvigorate the economy and get proceeds of growth before you can spend on public spending. You're really almost committing to the same public spending of the Conservatives with a bit of tweaking here and a bit of tweaking there. It's again, I come back to it. Those measures you've just outlined, I have, in fairness, and I'm older than you, heard them for about 30, 40 years. What is so good, what in your planning reforms, for example, that can shake the tree and make a difference and get Britain building, as you say?
Well, first of all, some of the reforms that we are suggesting to the NHS and our education system are significant. I mean, our NHS reform will deliver 2 million extra people, 2 million extra appointments a year. And when you've got a number of people forced out of the labour market because they can't get treatment, they might be waiting for a hip replacement or a hernia or a knee replacement, and they cannot work, that is acting as a blockage on growth. So fixing the NHS is actually a pro-growth policy. That's the first thing. But more broadly, we're not going to make any apologies for showing an iron discipline with the public finances. We saw what happened 12 months ago when there was a cavalier approach to the public finances. It led to the economy going off a cliff and the markets in turmoil and the Bank of England putting up mortgage rates for people in retaliation. So we will never take risks with iron discipline. But we can deal with the NHS, we can reskill people. And this point about planning reform, it is a significant change that we are proposing. The Conservatives have ducked this challenge because they give in to their backbenchers. We know we've got to build homes.
Can you give that assurance? Sorry to cut you off, Jonathan, but can you give that assurance? Because there have been backbenchers, even in the shadow cabinet, I may be wrong, but I think it was Lisa Nandy, who opposed locally developments but actually bought into exactly your top line that you're talking about. Do you think your politicians can be any different to the Conservatives who won't let development take place?
But the problem is, at the moment, there are areas of brownfield not being used, and there's areas that we call grey belt not being used. I mean, the good example is like this petrol station in Tottenham, which is designated, or disused petrol station, designated as green belt. That's clearly nonsensical. So we've got to take the tough decisions to build homes. And when you've got people desperate to get on that housing ladder, to own a home, that is so important, because you know as well as I do that owning a home is about changing one's horizons. It's about building a life, building a family for yourself. And we are the party of home ownership. We want people in this country to be able to get on that housing ladder and have and own a home, which is why we want to build more homes. OK, briefly, not a word in Keir Starmer's speech about immigration. Are you frightened of going near immigration as a topic? No, not at all. Actually, we've been talking about immigration this week and in previous weeks as well. And we believe, look, that there was a big part of Keir Starmer's speech about skills. Now, one of the issues of our immigration system is that employers ask for more occupations to be put on the shortages list because we're not training and reskilling people in this country, which is why we want to bring in a significant set of public sector reforms to our FE colleges, involving the private sector in that as well, so we can train people and reskill people and upskill people to fill the vacancies. At the moment we have immigration numbers because employers cannot fill the vacancies they have got. Well, we want to give people the training and reskilling so they can fill those vacancies. OK, just I have to get your reaction to the protester who disrupted Keir Starmer at the beginning of the speech. Look, I'll be honest, I thought he handled it well. I think all these people do is actually make it easier for the person who's speaking. But how on earth was that protester able to get that close to the leader of the opposition? Well, I mean, on the specifics, I think he's been arrested, so I presume there'll be some sort of proper inquiry into that, and I don't want to say anything that prejudges that side of it. But more broadly, I would say this. Keir, he brushed it off. He took his jacket off, he rolled his sleeves up, he didn't flinch. And if that protester thought he was going to knock Keir Starmer off course, he had misjudged the strength of character and resolve of Keir Starmer.
Listen, very briefly, your former leader, Jeremy Corbyn, he's refusing to condemn Hamas after this barbaric attack. He's still lurking out there, isn't he? As someone who was part of his shadow cabinet, do you condemn Hamas, and should Corbyn be permanently kicked out of Labour?
Well, first of all, that individual is not a Labour MP and will not be a Labour candidate in the next general election, right? That's a decision Keir Starmer...
He's still a member of the party, though.
He has shown firm leadership on that, and he will not be a candidate at the next general election. On your specific and substantive and more serious point, absolutely we condemn this terrorist organisation Hamas for what they have carried out. It is shocking, appalling, barbaric. So there is complete condemnation here. That we had a minute's silence on the floor of our conference yesterday. You may have seen that, or may have been covered on
and rightly so. And it's good to hear you say that.
Rightly so.
But should Corbyn be kicked out of the Labour Party? He should.
Well,
shouldn't
I mean,
he?
he's not a Labour MP.
Yeah, but he's not. He's still a party member.
Well, I mean, I mean, that's is he? I mean, he's not a Labour MP. He's not a Labour candidate.
No, but
he's kicked out the parliamentary Labour Party.
Kick him. You should be kicking him out, shouldn't you? Of the Labour Party. He is still a member.
Well, I was under the impression because he was kicked out of the parliamentary Labour Party, but maybe there's
all right. Listen, Jonathan, for time reasons only, much appreciate you joining us. Hope to talk to you again soon.